Welcome to the Dads of Football. Here we are talking about one of the early trades, one that maybe won't get people too excited unless you're a Crimson Tide fan. So, all you Alabama people, make sure you're liking and subscribing because we're talking about one of your dudes. But there's a reason why I wanted to talk about him. So, Mac Jones, he goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 6th-round pick. He's got 1 year left on his contract. Josh, what did you think about this move?
So, I mean, you knew New England was going to have to make a move at some point in time, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
you knew that with the new coach in place, with their draft position, that it was probably time to reset that clock, right? So you get Mac Jones in 2021. He has a fairly productive rookie year, throws for what, just about 68%, throws 22 touchdowns against 13 picks, 3,800 yards. And New England thought, you know what, we're rolling right into another guy who's going to do great things, right? I believe he was like second in the Rookie of the Year voting, AP Rookie of the Year voting. However, from that point forward, and I guess you could argue that New England, like normal, doesn't have a ton of weapons, doesn't have a lot of guys around him, but every year after that, he saw a downward turn in completion percentage and yardage, right? Granted, he only started 14 games in his second year and 11 in his third. So clearly that plays a role in those numbers, but his efficiency dropped every single year. So, okay, you move on. You move on. Here's a guy you drafted in the first round in 2021. For my money, might be the worst quarterback draft in the history of the NFL. Um, you've got Trevor Lawrence, who kind of ironically, Mac Jones is now going to join, but pretty deficient from almost any other metric that you look at for quarterbacks out of that draft, beyond Trevor Lawrence. Although, again, Mac Jones, good first year. Justin Fields got some excitement to him. I mean, Trey Lance is a backup. He's a top 3 pick in that draft. But this is a weird, fascinating move. I think it's a brilliant move for Jacksonville. You give up a 6th-round pick for a guy who, bare minimum, will be a solid backup, I would assume.
Here's my question. Like, looking at it, when you look at Mac Jones now, I mean, you said it yourself that rookie year was a solid year.
Yeah.
So you see the guy has potential. Yes, the last 2 years went poorly. With all that being said and done, do you think that Mac Jones has the ability to become a starter in the NFL?
I mean, here's the thing. One of the great things about getting an Alabama quarterback, plain and simple, is he's played in all the big games. He's had opportunities.
Yeah.
He's won a national title, all of those great things. He was the offensive MVP of the national title game. I mean, clearly this is a guy who's seen the big game and continue. Can he, so to speak, resurrect his career? You play a couple of years in Jacksonville, maybe you get a couple of spot starts, maybe you get, a couple of quarters in there when Jacksonville is up big. I guess if you buy into Gabe Davis as their this year's Ridley, maybe. My big thing with him is the beef with him has always been, and I shouldn't say beef, that's not necessarily fair, right? But he's got an average release. He's not a quick release guy. That's not to say he doesn't have a strong arm. I don't mean to imply that, but I mean, even when he was with the Patriots, he locked in on targets and got himself caught up, on his first guy or his second read. This was something that people said about him coming out of Alabama. So, sure, he can resurrect his career and eventually be a starter somewhere else. But are we talking he's going to be a top 20 guy? Probably not.
I'm gonna surprisingly defend Mac Jones and the
Yikes.
possibility for his career.
Yikes.
And this is hard for me to say because you know me, Josh. I don't like Alabama quarterbacks,
I know you
period.
don't. Yep.
Um, when I look at Alabama quarterbacks, it's one of those schools where consistently it's a school that, despite all the hype,
Yep.
disappoints when it comes to the quarterback position. And you could look at a long line of Alabama quarterbacks that have just been hot garbage in the NFL. The
Right.
only one, honestly, over the last few years that's shown any really that could be something special is Tua. I mean, other than Tua Tagovailoa, there's not another Alabama guy that's really lived up to expectations other than Tua.
Right.
Bryce Young, the record's still out on him. But guess what?
Yep.
If you're comparing Bryce Young's first year to Mac Jones's first year, Mac Jones had a much better first year. Now, granted,
Absolutely.
the team wasn't probably as good. Like that was a terrible Carolina team.
Oh yeah.
So, but to be fair, Mac Jones hasn't had a really good team his entire time at New England, and it's just gotten worse and worse. Now, when I see
Sure.
him get his stats going worse, you have the point where he throws for nearly 4,000 yards. He has definitely more touchdowns than interceptions that first year. Why does it
Yep.
go down? Is it because of him, or is it because the position that he's been put in? And when I see a team that's fielding a broken Juju Smith-Schuster
Yep.
and Bourne as your top two receivers,
Hey, they
and you
just re-signed him.
have fun with that. A guy that's probably no better than a fourth receiver on most other
Right.
teams. And on top of it, who's the guy's offensive coordinator? A coach that was coaching defense for most of his
Correct.
career. So
Correct.
every time you've screwed with this guy because Belichick was putting in his boys that weren't
Right.
great offensive minded guys. And they may have wrecked Mac Jones, to be honest. They may have just destroyed this kid's confidence and wrecked his psyche.
So that was going to kind of be my follow-up, right? My one, not necessarily retort, but I guess my one thing in favor of Mac Jones is you don't have a great offense around you in terms of weapons. Your line was patchwork for most of last year, especially. He only started 11 games. Again, he threw for 2,100 yards in 11 games. He plays six more at his career average of 212. I mean, you're now talking he's back up into the mid threes, 3,000s. One of the things for me though, right, is he's always had a lot of touch. You knew that about him, right? That's one of the things coming out of college. That's what most draft experts claimed and said. He showed it. Again, my thing with a guy like him, and again, maybe it's the offense, maybe it is, right? But yards per attempt have dropped every single year. Again, that could be the offense. That could be the play calling. There's without a doubt
Bad play calling.
like a major part of that, right? Like
John
I don't
Shoot
want to
play calling.
yeah, you ask, right?
Yeah.
It for me, again, he's played in all the big games. He's seen all of it. The expectations have been there for him before. He obviously joined an Alabama team that was loaded with talent, and never flinched from opportunities to win big games and did won a national title game. So can he? Sure. Is he broken though? In the same way that Justin Fields may be broken.
David Carr.
Possibly. David Carr is different. David Carr got destroyed. I mean, Mac Jones didn't get
He got
sacked
destroyed
a
physically.
ton.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
No.
I mean, Mac
I'm
Jones
talking.
was
I'm
sacked.
talking about that same type of when you're a guy. First of all, he was getting sacked left and right. Yeah.
Yeah,
But that kills your confidence too.
absolutely. I will say this though, Mac Jones was sacked 84 times in 3 years. Okay. His first year, he sacked 28, second year, 34, and then he's down to 22. Okay.
Mhm.
So again, and that's in 11 games. So that's 2 a game. So he's
Yeah.
getting beat up without question. I just find it fascinating that you go to Jacksonville, where if Trevor Lawrence stays healthy, how much does he play? So now we're talking, can you be productive with the very few opportunities you get, maybe even in the preseason? And then can you entice someone to take a flyer on you when, in theory, there's 3 or 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 guys coming out of this draft who are younger than him, and he's only 25, but that are younger than him who might just be better. I mean, who knows? It's an
and this is where I was going to say, this is where I think he could get his redemption. Yes, he kind of takes a breather, gets his mind right, gets his body right, everything. Yeah. Just clear your head, right? That's where I think this year could be kind of like a good reset. And then at some point, there's going to be a team, just like there's several teams now, who are kind of like, well, I don't know what to do at quarterback. Maybe we know we
Right.
don't have a guy for the future. We're not good enough to really draft one of the top 10 guys. So we need
Yeah.
someone who will do right now. And maybe as a free agent, he goes out there, throws a couple passes, looks halfway decent uh,
Sure.
in a couple of games, nothing special, but maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars see something in practice. These guys talk, say, hey, this guy is showing some talent here.
Yeah.
There's some people chirping. And to me, I think of like, well, it could be a situation similar to the Vikings right now or the Steelers who just need a
Sure.
guy to kind of keep them coasting. And then maybe he gets a shot and overperforms. They win,
Right.
so they still can't draft a guy. And they say, you know what? We'll do the Baker Mayfield. We'll sign you to a 3-year deal.
The difference is, right, is Baker Mayfield had multiple productive years. Although I guess you
He
could
was
argue
he
that
was
with Mac
one
Jones,
hot
his
minute
first
from
year,
being forever banished from the
for
NFL.
sure. For sure.
Like
Yeah.
like he went to a team that basically had nothing because people were even debating it, was it going to be him or Kyle Trask as the
Right.
starting quarterback, and
Right.
he just blew away the expectations and played really well, showing
Yeah.
that he still had it. Now, yes, Baker Mayfield was definitely a higher draft pick. There was definitely
Yep.
more expectation on
Well,
him.
not by much. Not by
Not by
much.
much, not by much, but
Still
and
first
then you
rounders.
no, you still brought up the point though that it's Alabama, and maybe that's why the Alabama guys never look that great because they're throwing to top tier talent throughout their entire careers. That could definitely be. Last comparison I'm going to make here before we end our video on Mac Jones. There's one name that I think he could be. And if this is who he is, then no, he's not going to be a starter, but he could still maybe exist in the NFL as a decent backup. The one person I fear he might turn into, and maybe he hopes he turns into, is
Right.
Blaine Gabbert.
I mean, could be worse, right? You could also turn in like a Chase Daniels type. Maybe even he gets lucky and has a Geno Smith like resurrection. Um, I I think Blaine Gabbert's fair. I think that's fair. He's, obviously shown a tremendous amount of arm talent. Can they surround him with enough weapons where he can take advantage? The Minnesota call is a fascinating one, right? And obviously Minnesota right now with Kirk Cousins taking the Atlanta deal, you wonder who they're going to go for. Is it possible that in a year or two from now we're talking about Mac Jones coming up to the NFC North? That's an interesting one. I brought up Geno Smith because I just kept thinking, like, if he can find himself in an offense that is play action oriented, like Pittsburgh, right? But in Seattle, that could be a place where he could flourish.
Mm-hmm.
So, not to mention the fact you get away from the bright lights, big cities. Again, not that New England necessarily is, but of course, Boston is, the East Coast
Boston.
is.
Yeah.
So,
And the reason I brought up Blaine Gabbert, 2011 first round, 10th pick,
yeah.
So
Yep.
there's a guy
Yep.
right in that spot that wasn't necessarily top 5 picks, but a guy that went a little bit later. Maybe
Yeah.
he exists that way. And hey, that was 2011. Here we are going into the 2024 season.
Yep.
And dude, he's still here.
Yes.
Blaine
It's
Gabbert's
incredible.
still here. So if
It's
Mac Jones
incredible.
could become Blaine Gabbert, then he could say, you know what? I got my money. Life was good.
Right.
I made it work out. So we'll see. Only time will tell. But there's something about Mac Jones. I'd like to see guys that are given a fair shot. And it just
Yeah.
seems like every year he was being something was being dropped on his foot with New England
For
over
sure.
there. A crumbling organization. So sorry, New Englanders. I said it. You have eyes. You can see it too. You know what's
I was
going
gonna
on
say
over there. Come on. Let's not pretend. So
it's
that's all
okay
we got on
that
Mac. Yeah. So you finish
I was
off your statement.
I was going to say that the release of the dynasty seems to be to coincide with the Patriots being a hot mess, right? So
Yes.
trying to make them feel better about who they are. Although it is a
Mm-hmm.
great series, by the way. The episode on Aaron Hernandez, incredible. But
Yes. 100%.
but but if New England is clinging to what was and doesn't start focusing on what is, they might be in for a long run here.
Definitely might be. Thank you for joining us. Make sure to like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.